Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So I think this is part 8, if I'm correct, of our investigation of the discourse on developing mindfulness. And we moved on to the 4th theme and the first of the first category of the 4th theme, 5 hindrances. So now that you've worked through the first 3, we're down to the last 2. And hopefully you'll be able to complete them this time, because hopefully you've got into the method of dealing with the hindrances by now. It's a little bit a special approach the Buddha had. And rather than just trying to get rid of the hindrance, we're transforming the hindrance into wisdom. And it's like suffering. This is a theme all the way through the Buddha's teachings. Rather than try and get rid of suffering, we have to study it to find out its cause before it's really resolved. If you just try and get rid of suffering, all you do is you compound it, complicate it. Getting rid of it is a negative, is an ego thing. Okay? Same with the hindrances. You try and get rid of aversion, and it's aversion. Because you're angry with your anger. Yeah. If you try to get rid of it, and if you don't want to get rid of it, that's desire for it. You're stuck with it. But Buddha tried a different method, transforming it into wisdom. So the next one, number 4, is a double one actually: restlessness and remorse. I think that's the translation, isn't it? You're just reading the book there. Was it restlessness and remorse? Bhikkhu Bodhi used remorse too. Translated sometimes as restlessness and worry. But the worry is about, it's regret about things we haven't done or have done. So I think it's better to translate it as remorse, because there are other things to worry about. So, comes under doubt. And restlessness, just like it's good that it comes right after the last theme of lethargy, because it is basically the opposite. It's a lack of energy. And similarly, as with lethargy, there's some of the causes for both of them are the same. Depends on the temperament of person. For example, somebody may relate to spiritual doldrums with lethargy, undermines their energy. Others may react with restlessness. Spiritual doldrums come along, nothing's really happening, and you get restless. What's going on here? I got to try something else. I have to find another teacher. I got to find another religion. So basically, the Pali Canon says, half helpfully, I guess, the root cause of restlessness is inappropriate attention to unsettledness of mind. Unsettledness of mind, and many different causes of unsettledness of mind. Basically, it's too much energy. It can be body, mind, or spirit. And some of the causes, practically speaking, I would say, are willpower can be a source of restlessness. Just that kind of doggedness of willpower, just slogging away, and you're not getting results, so you add more willpower to it. Then you just get more and more tense, and it's not working out. Frustration and etc. Restlessness. Also, sometimes something positive like faith could be a cause of restlessness. If you just have a lot of faith, well, you can become quite zealous. I've got to get it. I got to do it. I've got to convert other people to it too. Whereas in the approach to meditation, faith needs to be balanced with wisdom. You have to know the right measure of faith and recognize that faith maybe is sort of initially more conceptual. Then you got to put it into practice. So rather than just go with that, yes, it's right, it's perfect, it's going to work or whatever, you got to actually apply it. And the same with sometimes knowledge can give you restlessness because you have the theory, you know what should happen, but it's not happening. Why is that? So you try desperately to, continue with your knowledge, especially with concentration. You just sit down and watch the breath. Right? Yeah, sit down and watch the breath. It's not happening. The mind isn't calming down. Why? Because you're forcing it too much. You're out of tune with your body and your mind. You're just going on the theory, not tuning into the situation of body and mind. Then, of course, there are things more practically speaking, like, if you do have some kind of physical suffering, physical pain, can cause restlessness. Other time, maybe it's based on fear or trauma. Sometimes there is in your background with unacknowledged fears in the background. And especially when you come into spiritual practice, calming the mind, it may reveal it, may uncover it. It's happened to one of the monks that I was with in Switzerland. He started having some unusual psychological issues, and without realizing it, he had a deep trauma from his childhood. Yeah. Another one, which is a bit unusual, but I translated as stimulus hunger, which I think is more of a problem these days. Most of us are conditioned to receive so much stimulation, and going to a quiet place, we've developed that hunger for stimulation, and it's taken away, and we don't know what to do with our energies then. And of course, it probably wasn't a problem in the Buddhist time because they didn't have a lot of stimulation, not a lot of internet and videos and things. So remorse is regret of things we've done or haven't done. And I think this is compounded these days by our kind of also a cultural phenomena. There's a lot of self-disparagement, critical attitudes, even guilt. I would define remorse as repressed guilt. You don't acknowledge your mistakes. You got to try and be perfect, trying to be superstar. So it comes to the cessation of restlessness. So if the cause is unsettledness of mind, of course, the solution is settledness of mind, giving appropriate attention to settledness of mind, specifically concentration exercises. However, as maybe you've noticed, if you have restlessness, it's hard to concentrate. But if you recognize this calmness in a wider context, just living in a calm environment with calm people, reflecting on calm themes, for example, can be a support. And then maybe occasionally you can try and develop the meditation exercises, formally speaking. Ideally your mind's not restless all the time. Just before breakfast and after lunch. Maybe not after lunch. It's lethargy, isn't it, after lunch? Sluggishness after the meal, isn't it? So these, and then there's other exercises. For example, the next theme of developing mindfulness is the factors of awakening. I touched upon, I just mentioned in passing. But in these factors of awakening, there are three calming ones: tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. And there are three energizing ones: investigation of Dhamma, energy, and joy. So of course, with restlessness, we give more attention to tranquility, concentration, equanimity as factors of awakening. And for something like stimulus hunger, it's developing what we call sense restraint, or guarding the doors of the senses. And you recognize that, okay, this is just a it's a stimulation, but what's the advantage? Is it helpful? Is it wholesome or unwholesome? Yeah. And then you recognize that maybe if I can restrain my senses or try to not emphasize the stimulation aspect of it. And of course, the cessation of remorse, interesting enough, the Buddha mentions remorse as, you could say, even a positive thing. Because we all make mistakes. Yeah. So if you can acknowledge your mistake as a mistake, and then you move forward, see. Like this is what we do in our Patimokkha recitation, you see. That we recollect our mistakes, if we have any, over the last 2 weeks. maybe it might be a few, But we acknowledge them with somebody else. Yes, I recognize this. And the other monk says, okay, may you be restrained in the future. You say, yes, I'll try to not make that mistake again in the future. And then you kind of bring into your consciousness. Okay? But of course, a lot of people, they don't even want to recognize their mistakes. So it's unconscious. We think if we don't bring it up in our minds, it's not there. But it is. It's unconscious. So it niggles away at you. But if you actually formally acknowledge it, yes, I was careless in this situation. Okay, in the future, restrain yourself or make amends for it. Do something about it. Yeah. Then you can move forward from there. You know what your limitations are. If it's the same mistake every week, you better look at it again. Take some corrective measures. That maybe even requires asking forgiveness. It involves other people, or even like something like some of our rules where they're against the Vinaya, not against public morality, but against the Vinaya, that we just ask forgiveness from the Sangha or from the Buddha, and then move on from there. So when you can acknowledge your mistakes, you can make a positive change in your life then. But just trying to ignore them is not going to work. And you have guilt. And maybe it creeps up on you later. And as your mind gets more refined, you get more and more restless with it. Doubt and confusion. So we come to a bigger one. I think it's supposed to be not a lesser one, but doubt. I think the Buddha set these 5 hindrances in this order because the most severe first, sensual desire, and then aversion, sleepiness, restlessness, and doubt. However, these days, I think doubt is amplified by our particular style of living, so it's become more of a hindrance. So in the Buddhist time, doubt has a variety of expressions too. Perplexity, uncertainty, wavering, can be skeptical doubt. That's the one which is mentioned in the Pali Canon. Translated as skeptical doubt, because this doubt is being skeptical about certain aspects of teaching. Most specifically, in the Buddhist time, it was just doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and the training. Because there are lots of things available in the Buddhist time, lots of different teachers and trainings available. But these days, there's also self-doubt. There's also confusion, worry and indecision, fear and anxiety. Nobody running away yet? Oh, one, somebody. Oops. Hope that wasn't a Freudian slip there. And the Pali Canon gives the root cause, 2 root causes. One is just inappropriate attention to life, not looking closely at things. Say we doubt what we don't know. If you know, there's no doubt. So when you have confidence in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, no more doubt. But until then, you haven't. Basically, you need to arrive at the first level of awakening. Sotapanna, the stream enterer, is the first level of awakening. Has no more doubts in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha and training. Completely gone. But until then, maybe you Who was this Buddha anyway? Did he really live? Did he really exist? I say, well, it doesn't really matter. Teachings are there, that's good enough. Training's available today. And so the first cause is inappropriate attention, and the second one is inappropriate attention to doubt. Is that helpful? The things that cause doubt. I would say very basically these days, the cause of doubt is just thinking too much. Very simple. See, thinking is an incomplete experience. Thinking is not sensation, not bodily sensation, not emotion, not feeling. Thinking is only one kind of mental activity. So it can't really encompass a whole experience. So of course you're going to doubt. You're sort of looking down a narrow tunnel, thinking you see the whole picture. Nope, you don't see the whole picture, even though you think you do. So doubt's going to rise eventually. Have I really got the real picture? I mean, is it just that little narrow light at the end there, or what else is there? So this thinking too much goes off, I would say, in three different ways. We try to know things. We try to resolve doubt, or to know rather than doubt, through the wrong way. The Buddha talks about three kinds of understanding. There's the understanding which comes from just things you read about, you hear about, Sutta Maya Panya. There's understanding that comes from what you think about yourself, contemplating, reflecting. But the highest kind of knowing is Bhavana Maya Panya, the knowledge or understanding that comes from meditation practice. For example, this development of mindfulness. So body, feelings, states of mind, not just the thoughts, but the feelings and the states and the physical sensations. So when you know in a mental development sense, then you get a much wider picture of reality, not just a thought about it, a concept about it. That's the most direct way of knowing, complete way of knowing. And it's a knowing which you yourself directly experience, and so you know when you know. Oh yes, that's it. If you still have doubts, well, you don't know yet. The second one is the wrong topic. People try to understand what the wrong things. Like there's 4 topics the Buddha said that you shouldn't waste your time thinking about. One is the realm of the Buddha. Second one is the realm of absorption, jhana. The third one is results of previous action, kama vipaka. Trying to speculate about what the cause of this particular experience I have now is. What's my past experience? Who can know? We've created so much karma even over our lifetime, and you can't figure it all out. And the fourth one is speculation about the world. What's going to happen to the American election? What's going to lead to distraction? Wait and see, folks. Keep tuned to the television stations. I would say another one is having wrong assumptions. So of course, the wrongest assumption we have is that there is a permanent self. This is the wrong assumptions are based upon what the Buddha would call distortions of perception, vipralasa. Seeing what is permanent, what is impermanent as permanent, seeing what is suffering as happiness, seeing what is non-self as self, and seeing what is basically, you could say, unattractive as attractive. 4 distortions. And those we grew up with, don't we? How many of you were taught impermanence, suffering, anatta, asubha. Anybody? Even the Buddhists weren't taught that? No? You went to the unattractive. You went to the wrong school, I think. Because the whole of society is based upon permanence. And when you go to buy something, you assume that you're going to have it for a while, right? You go to the shop and you recognize this isn't going to last long. I mean, a number of times this happened to me, not recently, but when I was very young, I had money. I hate going shopping, and then I go somewhere and then look at something, but it's going to get worn out eventually. Why bother? Just wear the same stuff you got. or anatta, This looks nice outside, but it's not going to help my body. So another cause of doubt, I would say, is either we have fixed views about things, like some of these wrong assumptions, or we have fixed views. It's got to be this way. And sometimes we cling to beliefs then. And we think that, we have doubt, just believe something. I don't know about this, like it's going to happen in the Buddhist teachings too. I don't know about the Buddhist teachings, but I just believe it's real. And, you close your mind. It's more like blind belief many times. Rather than say, well, be a bit more pragmatic and say, well, I don't know, but let's test it out. Let's try it out and see. Now I don't believe it. I don't know about it, but I can try it out. That's what the Buddhist teaching is based upon. It's inviting, come and see. Ehipassiko, each person, see for yourself. Inviting inspection. So the cessation of doubt. So what the Pali Canon says, to deal with doubt, the way to deal with it is give appropriate attention to what is skillful and unskillful. There's no ultimate answer you can say, but to understand what is skillful, what is unskillful, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. And the Buddha has a confidence that when you set up that inquiry, you begin to see, the benefits, cause and effect processes of what is skillful leads to beneficial results. Not saying, you must believe this, resolve all your doubts and believe in me. I'm your savior. No, look at what is beneficial in your life, and how it leads to positive results, and you see for yourself. And then you believe in me. You see, I'm right. But then you'll know for yourself. So you not just believe the Buddha, but you see for yourself. Yeah. So he was the trailblazer. He saw it first. Now he said, well, you try it now. Technically, it was 4 things. The skillful, unskillful, what is blamable, unblamable, what is inferior, superior, what is dark, and what is bright. Yeah. And maybe you've noticed some of those are like the inferior and superior were also mentioned in the states of mind. Develop awareness of states of mind. You notice some states of mind are superior, uplifting, advanced or exalted. Some are inferior or obstructed or de-energized or whatever. And of course, another practical way to deal with doubt is to investigate, to learn. The most obvious one is to investigate doubt. What is doubt anyway? One of my experiences in Thailand was I had quite early on, I had a lot of confusion because before going to Thailand, I'd studied a bit about Buddhism. I took a course in comparative religion. I knew about the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. And I got to Thailand, and where was the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path around here? especially looking at my own mind. Where was the Eightfold Path? Sometimes I'll be sitting there and is this right concentration? No, maybe that's right mindfulness. No, again, maybe that's just right view. Then I realized, wait a minute, actually it's confusion. I realized that eventually the problem was I was trying to put this, you say, experiential, this experience into a concept. So I had this narrow concept, but the Eightfold Path was trying to pour all my experience of this Eightfold Path. And of course, it didn't quite fit. Sometimes it was the unnoble Eightfold Path. Or it was the wrong Eightfold Path or something. It was wrong view. It wasn't right view. But it was what the problem was. It was a clash of this wrong way of looking at things. You see, here I had this knowledge, this concepts, but of course, direct experience doesn't quite fit directly into concepts. Yeah. So one of the keys to the Eightfold Path, Buddha pointed out, was right view. The right view. And this is to counter a lot of doubt. I mean, right view is, for example, the key to it is knowing about condition causality, but cause and effect. So if you don't understand about cause and effect, action result, you can't understand the principle of karma. Karma is there's action gives a result. And some people just think, maybe they have either a view they picked up from their education or something. All this action, the results that I have, are caused by somebody up there, calling the shots. Or maybe it is just by chance. It's the laws of chance. Without recognizing there is a causal process in the background there. Okay? If you are a victim of some divine creator or just cause, accidents in the universe, what can you do about it? Not much you can do about it. You can pray, I guess, and hopefully he'll listen to you. Fat chance. For some of us, anyway. But if you recognize about condition causality, well, you, in a way, you have some control, if you like. You have some effect on the results of your actions. You can do something, even though in the beginning it may seem like a little effect. For example, just developing concentration. Maybe a whole lifetime of just restless mind, confusion, doubt, whatever. And you come to a quiet place to focus on the breathing and overwhelmed. My first experience of meditation in Sri Lanka. I've been traveling for several years, and then I ended up in this meditation center, and I knew it was very logical. Yes, you just sit there and cross your legs and watch your breath. Yes, but the mind, oh my gosh, just back traveling again. And it was even worse because I'm in a cage, you see, in this little cell, 6 feet by 4 feet. And my mind was traveling in Turkey and Greece and Afghanistan, and opened my eyes and there's a concrete wall around me. Oh, yes, it wasn't pleasant. But I had already determined to stay for 1 month, so I couldn't run away, no distractions. Only distraction was falling asleep after the meal. in the heat of Sri Lanka, and the sumptuous banquets they had there. And there in Sri Lanka, see, the lay people come and feed the yogis, you see. So we just sat there with our plate, and people walk by and dollops of rice like this, and just kept piling it on and piling it on and piling it on, and I think you could go like this, I think, and say enough, but basically they just kept piling it on, and then you're obliged to sort of sit there and make an attempt at eating it anyway. So then we have right view, gives us direction in the Buddhist teachings. Hopefully it'll cut through some of the doubt, if we know what right view is. And then there's the going back to the, those wrong ways of thinking, give us doubt. We can have the right mode of inquiry. So when there's something that, you doubt about something, like you recognize, I have doubt about what's the Eightfold Path. Well, it's just knowledge. Look in the book, get some information. If you want to experience, what's right mindfulness, then looking in a book isn't enough. You've got to develop bhavana mayapanya to find out what mindfulness practice is about and concentration practice is about. If you're just trying to study about concentration theoretically, you'll have doubts because you really won't know what it means. So applying, first of all, knowing what kind of doubt you have, whether it requires knowledge, whether it requires talking to somebody, talking to a teacher, getting some information from somebody, whether it requires meditation practice. And of course, the right topic, like I mentioned, those 4 topics that aren't going to give you any kind of satisfactory result. But one of the topics the Buddha said is going to give the most result is investigating suffering, dukkha. Of course, it's not very exciting, I know. Not as exciting as speculating about the world. There is a fairly well-known sutta where the Buddha is walking in the forest, the Simsapa forest, I think it is. And the Buddha stopped with his disciples and he just picked up a handful of leaves and he asked them, what do you think is more, venerables? The leaves in my hand or the leaves in the forest? And they said, well, of course, the leaves in the forest are much more. He said, well, that's what I know, he said. The leaves in the forest is what I know. But what I tell you is only this much, he said. Because all you have to know is that much. So all you have to know is about the 4 Noble Truths is enough to get enlightened. You don't need to know about all the other stuff. That's kind of secondary. That's kind of, they say, extracurricular. But to know about suffering, and that's really why, you can say why we're here, isn't it? Trying to find a solution to the unsatisfactoriness of life. If you were all happy already, you probably wouldn't be here. You wouldn't suffer getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, would you? Maybe you would, I don't know. The right assumptions. So, it's important to recognize that we do have distortions of perception. We're not seeing the right picture here. We aren't seeing the truth. Even though we kid ourselves most of the time, yes, I understand. You don't. Especially if you're still suffering, you really got it wrong. We get the wrong understanding. So if you can acknowledge that, then okay, right, I'm not seeing the clear picture. How about if I work at it? Then maybe the picture will become more clear to me. Another one is about the nature of the worldly winds. There is happiness and unhappiness. There is success and failure. There is praise and blame. It's just part of life. Call them the 8 worldly winds. What's the other one? Success and failure. I think. Gain and loss. Yeah. They do exist in the world, and so it's just to recognize we got to live within this. It's just like living within the climate. Live within the climate here, whatever it is. Whether it's generally cold or generally too hot or whatever, it's just we have to learn to adapt to it. not to get worried about it, confused about it. Why is somebody more famous than I am? Why is somebody else more successful than I am? That's one that maybe comes up in the monastery, spiritual pride. Somebody seems to be sitting there really, really deep in meditation, and then don't let it fool you. I've given interviews to a lot of people on a lot of retreats.
Which one then?
Which
one then?
Which
the
one?
That is...
No, middle way. Not too sleepy, not too rigid. But the ones that have more of an investigative attitude, and more inquiry attitude, well, let's just try it out. Keep going. They don't take it too seriously. I'm failing. I want to leave, or I'm a really success. I'm going to be here. I'll be the abbot in a few weeks. Oh, don't get personal here. Yeah, and over the development of spiritual practice, there's ups and downs. There's plateaus. There's pitfalls. There's all kinds of traps and things. So when sometimes you're going along nice and smoothly, and then boom, hit the blank wall or something. But it's always a grist for the mill. It's all part of the practice. Like with these hindrances, for example. Maybe you sit there, well, I don't have any, sensual desire, don't have a lot of aversion, sleepiness, restlessness, doubt. And then one morning somebody doesn't give you the right kind of porridge, and boom. Oops. Ooh. Maybe there is some aversion there. Where was it hiding? It was hiding under your pillow last night. And then it can really shatter you. You think, oh my gosh, I was really progressing nicely there, already, like my story at her time about a month and a half at the meditation retreat. And I meet this guy on the ski track, I meet the guy. Disturbed my concentration. Month and a half, and all he said was, get off the ski track. And I was really, my whole retreat was shot. Well, my concentration retreat was shot, but then the wisdom retreat began, you see. So sometimes we're given these lessons even though we don't expect them or don't even want them. But it's all part of the practice. You see. And especially for doubt, I think, again, we in our society, we really emphasize so much of being the knower, right? Being in the know, being educated and being well-informed and all this kind of stuff. But a helpful practice is just to remember, I don't really know. If I really knew, I'd be a Buddha. And I wouldn't be here right now. So obviously, I don't really know. Okay, I know a few things, I've got my degree in this or that, or I know about cooking or something, but I don't really know everything. I think it makes you a bit more humble then. And this way, the doubts can be transformed into inquiry. And if you don't know, if you acknowledge you don't know, then you want to find out. But if you really think you know it all, we say there's that Zen story of the Zen master, the professor goes to the Zen master, and the Zen master pours him a cup of tea, and he keeps pouring and pouring and pouring, and it goes over the edge, and the professor says, "Stop! Why are you doing that?" He said, "Well, just like you, your cup of tea is too filled, already too full up." He said. Not going to listen to anything, When I was in England one time in the monastery there in Northumberland, and this a local professor nearby, he knew about us, so he would come and bring his students every session. Every time they had this course on Theravada Buddhism, he'd bring the students to the monastery. And the first time he came, they hadn't studied yet about Theravada Buddhism. See? So they're all really eager to, everything I said was really profound. Saying, wow, he's really wise, So the next year they're going to come again. So they're, okay, I like this, And so they came, but they'd already studied this course on Theravada Buddhism. So they were saying, oh, about this. And I said, well, no, it's like this. He said, no, Ajahn, no, it's like that. So what do you mean it's like that? No, it's like this. No, Ajahn. The book says, and it was such a contrast. They knew all the answers. Here I was a Theravada monk for 30 years, but they knew all about Theravada Buddhism in whatever it was, 2 weeks of study, you see. And I realized, well, they have to be able to remember that for their exams. So I don't want to upset them, you see, and tell them the truth. They don't want to know the truth. They just want to know what will help them pass the exam anyway. So doubt can be somewhat paralyzing, especially if you have, doubt everything, but on the other hand, it can have positive results. To me, at least anyway, the Buddhist teaching does fulfill some degree of, I can say, Sutta Maya Panya, some degree of understanding based upon learning. When I first was given a book on Buddhism, I was studying engineering, and I thought, I haven't got time for this religious stuff. I got to study all these books on engineering. And my friend said, no, just keep it there. You might have time to read it. One day I was just so tired of stuffing my left brain with information. I picked up this book and started reading it, and I was really surprised. At the end, I thought, this is not a religion. This is science. It was all talking about cause and effect. You sit down and focus your attention, and after a while, your attention gets focused, and you get concentration, and you can see things more clearly. And there's no belief in it. You don't have to believe about this to do it, but it's just cause and effect. You do this, you get that result. So it sort of fulfilled that, that part of me which is interested in information, just knowledge. But I didn't have the chance to practice yet. I just had to. It seems logical, but there's no place in Canada at that time to actually do it. The only option was to go to Asia, which was a long way away at that time. But then 3 years later, I found myself at the door of a meditation center in Sri Lanka. Oh, yeah, here this has kind of gone full circle now, so maybe I'll try it. And I did, through the experience of trying it, I did get some results. Not the ones that I would have liked necessarily, but one of the results I didn't especially like was recognizing how out of control my mind was. The book just says, sit down, watch your breath, and your mind will go into concentration. Yeah, well, how many times have I tried that? Okay, patience. Actually, one day mine was so distracted and so busy, just was rambling on and on, traveling around the world and talking to myself. And I just said, oh, shut up. And it did. Suddenly the mind just stopped. And of course, I was so frightened that I was brain dead. I started thinking again. I was so lonely without thoughts. But I had the realization that the mind, I could be alive without thinking. Thinking is not the only purpose of life or only means of life, But when the thinking stops, life goes on. So that kept me going for a little while anyway. Till the next retreat. Didn't last long, mind you, but so is it all clear? Doubt has been cleared?
They're enlightened now.
Well, that's a bit too optimistic. Yeah. But, you're all clear about doubt? Clear about doubt? Doesn't mean you don't have doubt, but you're clear about how to work with doubt.
We have to try now.
Yep. Yeah. Doubt comes in different ways, at different times. Yeah. And like, I should have mentioned more about self-doubt, because that's a big problem in the Western countries too. That in the Buddhist time, it was just doubting the exterior teachings, Buddha Dhamma Sangha training. But nowadays there's more emphasis, strongness on self-doubt. Can I do it? Am I capable of doing it? Is it going to work for me? And what are your abilities and things? But the Buddha did say, he did invite anybody to come and join and practice it. There were some people, of course, he recognized through his special powers. Oh, they're ready for it. Other people, he didn't say too much about. They got a bit more work to do than others. But the more you practice, the more you see there is results. Simple as that. Whether it's a little bit or a lot. And as Ajahn Chah would say, you practice a little, you get a little peace. Practice a lot, you get a lot of peace. Practice completely, you get complete peace. It's up to you. So, if you're beyond doubt, no questions then. Oh.
I've read a couple of times in the Satipatthana Sutta, and the wording's a bit odd. I was wondering if you could help me understand a little bit. Where it says, how bhikkhus does a bhikkhu abide contemplating mind objects as mind objects? Why does it? It says contemplating this as this.
Mm-hmm.
This repeats the word like mind objects as mind objects. Why does he do that?
I would say you're trying to just see it as it is, you see. Without the interpretation.
Okay.
Without the interpretation, without the the assumptions and all that. Just being aware of more easier maybe feelings. Mm-hmm. Be aware of a feeling as a feeling.
Right.
For most people, they have a feeling for a little millisecond, and they start, oh, I like that. Oh, I want that. How can I get that? They lost it. They lost the feeling again. By the time they're way off there, how can I get that? The feeling's changed already. They're, So how are they going to ever actually find out what a feeling really is? How are they going to observe what a mind object or a phenomenon of mind or a condition of mind really is? And especially the mind can go very quickly. You notice a particular condition of mind, and you like it or don't like it, and then you don't like it, you ignore it, cover it up, whatever, get angry with it, rather than just see what is it anyway. Sometimes those mind objects, if you look at them more clearly, they're not as they appear to be. Mostly we just react to them according to our old programming. Mm-hmm. Like something like doubt. Since I was many years in a student on the university, you should never doubt. You should always know. That's the game you play. Mm-hmm. Anybody who doubts drops out, which happened to me eventually anyway. But anyway, but even you don't know, you won't admit it. You still think, I know, of course I know, and you just try and bluff your way through it. But then when I began to recognize I really have a lot of doubt and don't really know, then the whole picture changed, you see. So what is doubt? What is fear? It's another one. Fear is, it's not easy to look at, but if you have more concentration, you can look at something like fear and not be fearful of it. Mm-hmm. And as somebody, somebody said something like, the only thing to be frightened of is fear itself. And what's fear? Where is it?
It was Roosevelt who said that.
Who?
Franklin's an artist.
Roosevelt. Oh, okay, yeah. I thought it was a politician. Yeah.
So is that related to contemplating fear as fear or mind objects as objects? Is that somehow related to Sampajanya?
There's sati, there's awareness of it,
Yeah.
and the sampajana is also, if you read the I think Bhikkhu Bodhi calls it the refrain or something.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're aware of the object, then you try to observe the arising factors and the ceasing factors. The arising and ceasing factors. And then internally, externally, internally and externally. That's the sampajana part. It's more like the sampajana, it means closer to knowledge, comprehension and knowledge. So there's a mindfulness of just being aware, clear awareness, this is it. And now you get a bigger picture now. Where is it coming from? Where's it going to? What's the causal factor, what the cessation factors are? And some of them are with the hindrances. It also says, and be aware of what prevents the hindrance from arising in the future too. There's 4 parts to it.
How do you become aware of those? I read those and go, yeah, but how? What are they?
Well, you open up your awareness. You have mindfulness of this object. Now try to expand that awareness to include not only the object, but its beginning phases and ceasing phases. And once you're clear about that, what you're looking at, you can kind of, as it were, it's like looking at a microscope and isolating it from the bigger picture. Then maybe you can see it, But I mean, not every time either. It's not manifest all the time. Doesn't cease all the time. But once you've been able to kind of isolate that experience through in your experience in general, it's like now you have a little bit of a bit of priming or something to be aware of that. Oh, what's that now? What's triggering off this anger? So it's like you're setting up a special, you can say a quality of knowing in this special area of our life. Before you didn't even want to look at the anger. But now you bring it to focus, the Buddha says, with these one of the first mind objects is to be aware of greed, aversion, delusion. So you set that up into your awareness, and then it's like now you've got a little what do you say? It's been signed for us, or it's been signaled, or it's been starred. Your email marked. It's important. Look at that now, and then awareness begins to can expand to take into that. Maybe first of all you see is you're being aware of anger, more often, or more vividly. But then keep up. Now try to look at how does that. What's the bigger picture here, and then maybe then it becomes more into focus. This anger isn't an isolated thing. It's part of a whole process, mental process. There's irritation. There's some kind of stimulus, and then the response is anger, and then maybe it either gets suppressed, or it fades away, or it gets exploded, or feeds into rage or something. I told them the story last time, wasn't it? About on the ski track. Well, what I took as the anger and looked at it, that behind it was resentment. Behind that was frustration. Behind that was fear. So there was a whole conditioned thing there. It wasn't just anger was the most prominent thing. It's very hot and and there was this guy with this finger in my face. Get off the ski track. But the resentment was in the background. You see, simmering in the background, which is hard to define or hard to pinpoint, really. So using that anger is a very prominent point. And what's behind that? And eventually, it took a while before the resentment kind of poked its head out. And it's not anger at all, resentment. There's a long story. The anger had one, 10-minute episode, but resentment was 10 years, or something, or 10 lifetimes. I don't know.
Taking that example, so where did the resentment, so how do you...
It's conditioned by frustration. I mean, life is frustrating, right? It never conforms to my desires. Yeah.
My need.
Yeah. And so then I get resentful because it doesn't satisfy me. Yeah. And behind the frustration, conditioning that was the fear, the ego fear, that the ego is created and it's gonna. I gotta make myself known. This ego has to present itself to the world, and so I want this. Boom, splat. Frustrated, slap down again.
So at that point in time, Ajahn, you remove your need, and that's the letting go process, right? To come to. So if you're getting frustrated, you analyze it and say, "Oh, I'm suffering because I can't get what I want, so I let go of what I want right now."
Part of it, yes, but part of it is there's a deeper kind of knowing behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the frustration is just feeding your ego.
Yes.
It's not going to work.
No. Yeah.
It's like a false hunger. See, so I mean, as soon as you see that, what's what am I doing here? Yes. So sometimes you can just catch it and drop it, and the whole thing kind of crumbles then. And, it doesn't go into anger and rage and what do you call acts of terrorism and whatever.
Does that process happen in or out of meditation, or both?
Both.
Of understanding.
Yeah. I mean, if you keep up the practice, I mean, that's what Ajahn Chah emphasized, to try and keep up the practice is everything. Not just when you're sitting on your cushion. I mean, that's a kind of refinement where you can in a quieter environment and maybe less stimulation, so less input, so even more subtle consciousness, more clarity of mind, but carry that with you out into the world. And some people, they don't get that emphasized, that meditation, just sitting quietly, pacifying your emotions, and then they get up and start walking around and start to get back to the cushion quick. Tighten your seatbelt. So things calm down again, and then okay, out to the world again.
So we need a bit of samadhi to able to see all these thoughts.
Yep.
And where to go.
That's right.
So it doesn't give us a power to act over that thoughts.
That's been, there's different kinds of concentration, you see. So I mean, concentration within the context of mindfulness, you see, this is the very first exercise of mindfulness is watching the breath, which is, focusing exercise. But you can keep focusing, or you can emphasize then the arising and the passing, the insight aspect of it. And then if you continue with that exercise, you follow the instructions there, they go more into insight meditation rather than concentration. You can follow the Anapanasati Sutta, another discourse, not Satipatthana, but another one, and it's focusing more on concentration exercise and then bringing in mindfulness. But the Satipatthana is beginning with concentration, then bringing in more insight meditation practice, more directly, more immediately. So you can say that the Satipatthana is, vipassana samadhi. And Anapanasati Sutta is more samadhi, vipassana. Better be careful here. Depending upon the temperament of person. Yeah. There's a hand been waving there for a while, yes. Yeah.
Thank you for this Dhamma offering. I think there's not, sometimes in the suttas when I've come across doubt, it's just like, it almost feels like that someone's extracted, someone's come along and redacted that passage or something, because it's like, sometimes, I can't remember a specific where, but it'll say something about the hindrances, and then doubt is just like,
That was simple in the Buddha's time. He didn't think so much.
So, and the other thing is, I know that you have a book on this, and I kind of resisted reading it because I was having a lot of doubt coming up with the meditation in the past few weeks. So, one of the things I think I think, about doubt is that you kind of have to be willing to, like, the world goes on, and there's a view of which is like, it's an intellectual kind of person always trying to get things to fit it.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is, it's like, if you I was thinking about how the Buddha dispelled Mara by touching the earth, and there was this way in which you can kind of let that view die, or let that view, that view, it doesn't matter. That view.
Mm-hmm. It's just a view.
Yeah.
Just a view.
And there's a lot of energy going into keeping it.
Yeah, alive.
Static.
Yeah.
And I think today there's a lot of energy being expelled, which is completely unnecessary on just maintaining views.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
One of the things, I'm constantly doing it. Like, I'm doing it now as we speak. But it's just a habit. But one of the things, I think, like when I was talking, what needs to be understood about language and concepts is that it's kind of like trying to suck in the world to a straw. Like, there's no possibility of getting reality to match the any view or any.
Mm-hmm.
The view is subject to anicca as well.
Yeah.
It changes. So doubt is a really fun hindrance, because you can sit there and it can seem like the whole world is collapsing, and you just kind of keep sitting there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it can seem like, and then the next day it will change. It'll be like,
Yep.
Yeah, but it can be very harrowing.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to I don't know, probably share.
Then you know
share
about
that, actually, because it helped
Yeah.
anyone as well.
You know about doubt now, so
I-
interesting thing, doubt. Yeah.
Oh, but another question is about do you have anything to say about how conceit can work in creating those sorts of views? Because there's one sense in which you might be like, well, because that conceit is still there until arahantship, right? So
Yep.
the stream entry might be like, okay, I've passed doubt, but then they'll still have conceit.
But the Sumendra only has passed through doubt about the Buddha Dhamma Sangha and training. But they can still have other doubts, doubts about their own attainments and things, But in the Buddhist time, I can say doubt was very simple. So now it's very complicated these days. Yeah, and then say the whole conceit is the whole basis of all the hindrances. Conceit comes out of yourself. You think you know, but you don't know. So it takes an arahant to really go beyond the conceits. And I could say probably, the Sotapannas got rid of so-called skeptical doubt. Maybe only the arahants got rid of, you could say self-doubt or something, because there's no more conceit to doubt. No more self to doubt. And the arahant still has, only the arahant has transcended restlessness.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Restlessness is another very subtle one, and if it's caused by confusion or something, only when the arahant is totally beyond conceit, no more confusion, no more worry, no more fear, no more doubt completely. In all of its varieties, you see. Yeah, try it out. Let me know when you get there if it's right or not. Do you have a question? Yeah.
Ajahn, can you tell more detail about how to widen the mindfulness? So last visit, when I asked about how to watch the self, and then Ajahn for us to widen the awareness and see the thought come up and arise and cease. And then can you explain a little more how to do it in detail? Sometimes when you watch it come up, if you watch it, definitely will come up.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's about to come up and it's go away. And actually how to do it, you let it arise and then you analyze it or just watch?
I mean, you use different methods in different situations, you see. I mean, we know already, we know by theory that, things arise and pass away, so when you're aware of something, you just set up your awareness in a conceptual way. Okay, where's the arising now? It's just like opening up the possibility to see it. Just using your concept to open up the possibility to look in that direction. If somebody says there's a snake underneath the kitchen there, then now I'll keep my eyes open. If you didn't know that, you wouldn't even bother to look, would you? Yeah. But now that you know that, okay, now I'll try and see it. Maybe you see it, maybe you won't. But you set up your mind to look in that direction now, you see. So just knowing that there is arising and there is ceasing, it allows you to open up your mind in that direction. It's just like normally people don't even know there's things arise and pass. It's there and it's gone. That's it. They're sort of just looking at the object itself, not the process of arising and passing. So their mind isn't even programmed to look at arising and passing. But now the Buddha is telling us now that we reprogram our mind, you see, to look at impermanence. Our mind's programmed to look at permanence. Now we reprogram our mind to look at impermanence, arising and passing, arising. It's there already, but we just haven't programmed the mind to be aware of it, you see. And sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. It's not guaranteed. Sometimes it's obvious how things arise, the various conditions even. Other times, not very clear right now, but you keep up that openness of mind in that direction. And maybe it's manifest sometimes. And sometimes it just becomes, like even, what do you say, spontaneously or surprisingly. Like with my awareness of resentment, for example. I didn't know there was a resentment there. If you'd have told me, I would have denied it. I'm not resentful. Don't tell me I'm resentful. And my mind was not programmed to look there, see. But with enough, inquiry, and support of metta, friendliness, receptiveness, openness, began to kind of slowly break down the barriers. And then one day, just there it was. Surprisingly. I mean, even shockingly. It's like, just be careful, don't shockingly see the snake out there. So it's a matter of, first of all, recognizing what it is that you're trying to give special attention to, and then make an effort to look a bit wider. And you can do that physically, with feeling, physical sensations, with feeling, and the states of mind too. If you notice something, something like, say anger. Okay, now look at the body now. What's the sensation in the body? Tension there. What's the feeling? Pleasant, unpleasant? So then next time maybe you're aware of that tension in the body. Is this anger? And how did this tension build up? I could that example, this guy with the finger in my nose, of course my body tensed up, Is he going to hit me, or am I going to hit him? So, there was obviously the physical and a mental, emotional reaction. See? But sometimes the physical is more obvious. And you see that, that's building up now. When it gets to a certain point, critical point, it's very, very unpleasant, and then anger comes in. Anger is a reaction to pain. When there's anger, there's hurt, pain. You keep your, the awareness open at all these different levels, and maybe one level exposes it more than others. You don't always see it in your mind because maybe you don't want to see it in your mind. But your body doesn't lie to you. So our body is dumb, but it's good sometimes. Doesn't play games with us so much as our mind does. I remember somebody, their face was beat red, and they said, "I'm not angry." And I said, "Just look in the mirror, man." He refused to accept that he was angry, but everybody could see it in his face, you know. Clear as day, but he didn't see it. So give it a try. You hear? So next Wednesday, I'll be on retreat. So I think there'll be no class unless Ajahn Kema is going to do it. But maybe the next one will be on the 17th, which is a Thursday actually. But that's the end of my retreat, and that's the posted a day. So, you know, give me one more day quiet to a Thursday, 17th of September. So the next theme, I think I'll skip the order in the book, and we'll go on to this 7 factors of awakening. Oh, nice cheerful topic. Yeah. And I think it fits better coming after the hindrances also, because they say technically the most helpful way of dealing with hindrances is developing the 7 factors of awakening. And maybe I can do them a little bit quicker than the hindrances, huh? Since you're already advanced meditators, you'd know about mindfulness, concentration, tranquility, equanimity, right? You got 2 weeks to brush up. Brush up your equanimity and tranquility.
After that, it's only to drink always. So then it's the end.
Yes. Seeing what I mean, the end.
End of the
What arises passes away.
end of the rain.
Rains, okay, yeah.
So you do after the rain too.
I don't know yet. Maybe we'll see. Yeah,
In the moment.
There's a few more. But maybe I'll shift them onto the. I don't know what happens after the rains. You know, if there's no sutta class, but just Saturday talks or something. Anyway, we'll see. Yeah, but it's we don't need to. We can we don't need to finish the Satipatthana discourse. We can always do it next rains. Yeah. So you got to stay around for the advanced course. Yeah.
They're around with different conditions. They already bipolar.
Oh no! After factors of awakening, you should be on the right track. So there's also, maybe I'll put on the board too, there's a whole chapter in the Samyutta Nikaya about the factors of awakening. So to give you more detail, because there isn't too much in that little passage in the Satipatthana scripture. It's not too much there, just mentions them, I think. But in the big chapter, there's a whole chapter in the Samyutta Nikaya, also one of the Pali Canon, translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi. But there's a whole chapter of many discourses giving more detail. So then maybe you can tell me about them. Maybe I shouldn't. No. It's good to know at least the theory anyway. There's more detail about them.
Just Chanko.
No, you don't. You need more than that.
No, just one question. I thought the 7 factors of awakening is something that arises from walking. Once you have the right view, the rest automatically develops because you've got the right view. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say things automatically develop. Bhavana means development.
That's what I mean. When you try to practice with the 8, you kind of contemplate and re-educate yourself that it's not Nietzsche anymore, and it's not what we think. These assumptions. Yeah. Then would that knowledge give us an understanding of not the part? I wouldn't want to gossip anymore because I know it's of no value. Mm-hmm. So wouldn't that happen because of your panya will develop once you have the right view? So
Yeah.
wouldn't that kind of, that awareness itself make this arise?
I would say maybe it's not sufficient, you see. That's why the Buddha put, special awareness of the 7 factors of awakening.
Mhm.
So you got to make an effort to put awareness into it, effort into it, to develop them too. They're not going to just happen by themselves. I mean, maybe you have some appreciation of their value, but making a conscious effort to develop them, this can be a whole total practice by itself, Yeah. So, you got some homework. Okay. So you got the schedule for the evening?
7 o'clock.
I think it's 7 o'clock, yeah.
So,